What's up, guys? It's Josh back with SobrietyWoD again. If it's your first time, welcome. If you're back again, welcome back. Today's class I titled it Escape Velocity. And, I don't know where this came from. I was just thinking about it the other day. I've been messing around with physics stuff. But if you're not familiar with the concept of escape velocity, what it is the required velocity of an object to propel itself out of the gravitational pull of a more massive object. So basically, like if a rocket is trying to leave Earth, there's a minimum speed that it has to go in order to break free of the gravitational pull of the Earth. The escape velocity of Earth, and every object has an escape velocity, but the escape velocity of Earth is actually 25,020 miles per hour, which I thought was pretty wild. So for a rocket to actually break free and to go into orbit, it has to achieve that minimum velocity. So I was thinking about that, again, I don't know why, but I was thinking about that, and I was thinking about its relationship to our breaking free of our addictions, breaking free of our habit patterns. Working in the gym, I deal a lot with human change, and what we're trying to do is get people to do things differently than the way they've done before. And as astounding as that 25,000 miles per hour figure is, man, sometimes it seems like it's just as hard to get somebody to change, to break free from their old habit patterns. And so I see with people that I have to get them or help them actually on their own achieve this escape velocity. They have to build enough momentum in a different direction in order to leave that old life behind. And so a couple things about escape velocity that's kind of interesting, and I like analogies because it helps us remember stuff. But one of the things that's interesting about it is that the escape velocity is directly affected by the mass of the object being escaped. And I was thinking about that in terms of, the bigger your problem is, the harder it is to break. If it's a habit you just started or it's not that big of a deal, it doesn't require as much energy to change. But if it's a huge deal, it requires more energy. It requires more velocity to break away from it. And I would think that addiction, especially physical addiction, psychological too, would be one of the most massive objects to try to escape from. And most of you guys here, I'm assuming, have actually felt what that feels like to achieve that, which is pretty special. So another thing is that there's two ways to increase the velocity of an escaping object. So if I'm trying to get away from this old lifestyle and these old habit patterns, there's two ways to go about that. If a rocket is trying to leave Earth and it is having trouble attaining escape velocity, there's two things that can be done. We can either add propulsion, or we can add power to the system that's achieving the speed in the rocket, or we can take away limiting factors, things that are causing it to slow down, things like drag or things like payload. If you ever seen a rocket leave, that's why they drop the engine. So as soon as the engines are not providing enough propulsion, they jettison them. They actually kick them off because now that's just dead weight. And I thought, like, all this stuff is so interesting to us escaping from our place of addiction. So if we look at increasing propulsion, there's a quote in the big book that talks about most people try to live by self-propulsion. And one of the ways we deal with the propulsion issue in the 12-step program that I'm involved in is by finding a new source of power. So that is referred to oftentimes as the higher power. And a lot of times there's issues with the God concept and all that stuff. And mine is probably just as complex as anyone else's, but simply there has to be a source that's outside of myself, because I've tried to do it by myself for a long time and nothing worked. I could not increase my own power enough. I had to find another source of power. Second way is releasing limiting factors. And what that has to do is releasing old ideas, releasing fears, releasing resentments. These are all anchors that hold us back. So a lot of times just one of them is not enough. But when we put them together, when we increase the power output and we jettison the old ideas and the things that are limiting our progress, then we find that we can achieve that 25,020 miles per hour to break away from that stuff that's holding us back. So interesting thing to think about and keep in your mind with you as you go about this workout and you go about the next week. So for the discussion, so I want you guys to spend some time talking about the limiting factors that you had to release in order to attain your escape velocity. In order for you to leave that big massive object behind, what are some things that you had to release? What are some things that you had to let go of? On the paper I have fears, resentments, self-pity, and old ideas. And I think most of the things we had to let go of and that we're still letting go of fall into those categories. So you guys have a great discussion. We'll be right back with the CrossFit portion.